Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Lovers. Welcome to this live webinar. I'm the CEO and Chief Trend Watcher at Supply Chain Media. You also might know me as the Editor-in-Chief of Supply Chain Movement, European Quarterly Magazine. We have a live webinar about network transport management systems, and we'll have an interactive session about this interesting topic. All right. So like I said, my name is Martin Loppers. You see me on the left, Chief Trend Watcher of Supply Chain Media. I will be the moderator of this live webinar. And with me, I have Jung Fu, VP of Global Enterprise Solutions at Elemica. Jung, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Martin.
Could you tell me a bit about your background, and then we're going to start the session about network TMS.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's say my background is that I'm one, let's say, of the co-founder of the iFreight TMS, and iFreight TMS has been acquired by Elemica in February this year. So if you look at my educational background, I've studied information systems at in the Netherlands, in TU Delft. And from there, let's say my first project was actually developing a container management system for the Deutsche Post. But fast forward, in 2008, we have started iFreight TMS. I'm one of the co-founder. And during this startup phase, I designed and developed, let's say, our system together with my team at the time. I've implemented TMS across the world myself as a project manager, several instances. And my current role is that of what you have mentioned, global enterprise solutions. And I'm helping, let's say, our customers and prospects with finding a solution for, let's say, the logistics requirements, and also support our sales team.
All right. So for all your listeners at home or online at least, this webinar will be recorded, and afterwards we will share the link of this recording, and also the presentation will be made available as PDF. Everybody is on mute, all the listeners, but you can ask questions. You will see a questions panel on the right side of your screen, so you can type in questions to Jung and me. And if these questions are in line of the things we are discussing at that moment, I will make sure that we'll ask this question right away. So it could be part of our interactive discussion. And otherwise, we will save all other questions to the Q&A at the end. All right. But first, I'm going to explain why do we have this webinar at this moment. And so we did a survey in March 2020. It was at the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, I would say, among 142 manufacturing companies. And what you see here in this overview, what companies saw as a bottleneck was a lack of visibility, and on different areas, at the supplier side, but also outbound to customers, transportation. Also a lack of demand visibility, so what's happening on the customer side. And the most important bottleneck was the inbound flow of raw materials. So Jung, how do you reflect on these findings earlier this year?
Yes, that's interesting. Let's say what we see is actually that visibility has always been a bottleneck for most companies. Just an example, one of our first, let's say, customer 8 years ago, they actually got notified when something did not arrive. So most of the companies still has this issue. Well, in this case, let's say we have solved it with our TMS system, and what you see during the Corona crisis is actually that a lot of companies are feeling this problem now very urgently, because now it happens at massive scale, that for the companies who who do not have, let's say, a system in place, that they don't have a clue where the goods are, because what you see is that the production is impacted during Corona. There were delays at the border controls and the air freight restrictions, and workers are in lockdown. So there's a lot of delay in all phases in the supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
And so the need for visibility will become much more important for the industry.
Yeah, we have done a survey about that. So what are the plans for manufacturing companies in the next 12 months, where to invest? And next to sales and operations planning, end-to-end supply chain visibility was a software type that scored the most. So over 50% of the leading companies are going to invest in end-to-end supply chain visibility. And also interesting to see is the real-time transport visibility is emerging as a separate kind of environment companies want to invest in. Is it a surprise to you, Hume?
No, actually not. And this is exactly what you'll see happens with Elemica and iFreight, because iFreight TMS is, let's say, specialized in real-time transportation visibility. And Elemica is actually specialized in end-to-end supply chain visibility. So it's not only important, let's say, where the goods are, but it's also important where the order is, let's say, what is order status of order is in the whole process. Is order confirmed? Is it confirmed, let's say, with a different quantity, and when it is, let's say, ready? So, and that is what you see. One of the reasons that Elemica has acquired iFreight, to combine both, because the data is key.
All right. First, to put it all in perspective, we created an overview of end-to-end supply chain visibility. So what is end-to-end supply chain visibility? So from left to right, you see the raw materials, where the supply chains are starting, up to the end usage, the end stage of a product being used. And on the left side, you see all kinds of suppliers from tier N, 3, 2, 1, your direct suppliers. And then you have your internal application portfolio, I would say, from bottom to the top, from your starting to ERP, and have your TMS, WMS, and so forth and so on. And you have S&OP as a planning layer in the middle, and upwards you have other kind of applications. And on the right side, you have in the green, your customer area, your channels, your downstream supply chain. And what we saw, especially earlier this year, different kind of challenges upstream, talk about supplier risk and inbound materials. And in the middle, your internal visibility. It's about, what is your cost to serve is very important to see, and capacity, network, and constraints, especially when borders were closed, that was a paramount earlier this year. And downstream, you have demand variability, but also delivery status is very important. So basically, we have created this slide and we have translated it into an end-to-end supply chain visibility assessment based on 30 boxes with each 3 questions, yes, no. You can see what your white spots are. Do you recognize this as an end-to-end supply chain visibility, Hume?
Yes, absolutely. Because, well, if you look at this picture and where we stand as Elemica is actually, we're mostly active, let's say, at the operational layer, right? The upstream focus, internal focus, and downstream focus at the operational layer. And what we do is actually, we generate so much data, which is so important, that they can be used for the tactical layer, let's say for the midterm, and for the strategic layer. So our focus area is exactly what you say, from the upstream, internal, to downstream at the operational layer.
And now moving to Elemica and the background. So I know that Elemica, was founded in the area of chemicals industry, but Elemica has moved on to a lot of customers.
Yes, Well, it was a long time ago that we focused on, let's say, on the chemical industry and the process industry.
Mm-hmm.
That was 20 years ago, and during, let's say, the time, we have steadily expanded our services to adjacent industries, and that is because we have a strong network approach, and we have a strong platform that provide connection to all trading partners. And actually, we're still planning to aggressively expand our reach in the coming years. And what you saw is actually that we have made 2 acquisitions, one for a quality management system, and then iFreight TMS this year. So where we are expanding our focus, and as you can see, we are expanding our focus to manufacturing, but also to consumer products and retail, for which we already have quite a lot of customers active.
But you know, we're going to talk about the transport management system, network TMS.
Yes.
But it's good to see that, interesting to see that these are all brand owners. These are all manufacturing companies, or in logistic terms, they call shippers. So, but it's, you know, mainly focused, or almost exclusively focused on the brand owners, the manufacturing companies themselves. So I'm curious to see, okay, you are talking about a TMS, and you talk about a Shipper TMS. So could you explain more what you mean by that?
Okay, I can do that. Let's say, first of all, it is very important to recognize that it is a TMS for the shippers. So it means that the functionality should be focused on the roles within, let's say, within the shipper company, and not, let's say, on the roles for the carrier company. So if you look at the TMS for the shipper, if you look at very high level, in the ERP system, the sales order will be, let's say, created, or the purchase order, and then from the ERP, you'll create a transport order. In SAP terminology, there will be a delivery note, and that will be the input, let's say, for the TMS. That will be the starting point for the whole planning process. Okay, and in terms of inbound, there could be a supplier portal involved in creating, let's say, this confirming the purchase order, the quantity that need to be shipped, and then this, let's say, this notice about these quantity are ready for shipment will be the input for the TMS. So if you look at the TMS function, it receives these transport orders. The planner plans the transport orders. Then it will communicate these orders to, let's say, to the carriers, and then at the end, the whole invoicing process will start. Okay, and the TMS will provide, ideally, exactly calculate the cost so that the invoice process can be done smoothly, and it will provide reporting and analytics for analyzing the data. So let's look at the transport planning part. Okay, what is important in the receiving the freight order is that the TMS should be flexible, because most ERP systems are not flexible. So if you have a TMS that is flexible and that is able to enrich data, then you can have a much smoother implementation. And the planning, there are TMSs with, let's say, simple planning, let's say, that can only plan one order on one shipment. But there are also TMS with complex optimized planning, like planning using a VRP, what do you call, finding the best route, vehicle routing problem, and also planning for 3D load. Let's say calculating what fits the best in a container and choose the best rate. And tendering and time slot management could be part of it. Regarding to contact tower, carrier communication is very important, because what you want is to send all this information to the carrier. Well, most carriers, most large carriers has EDI connection, but the smaller one do not, and they, then it's important that you have a system that can give them other means, make it so easy for them to give you information like an email link where they can click on it and have a web form where they can enter the status, or a mobile app where they can provide the status. So that is important for the control tower because the data is key. Without the data, you don't get that much value. Freight span management, traditionally, the shippers are getting the invoice. They have to figure out what it costs, calculate the spreadsheet, and then match what, let's say, the carriers tell them. So the TMS can calculate everything automatically based on the rate sheet that is inputted as master data. And so it will provide exactly the differences. But it is even better if the TMS is able to tell the carrier what they need to invoice, because in that case, everything is automated and the carrier is actually checking in the system what they need to invoice, and if they agree on it, they will say approve, and then it's done. Well, of course, you have to approve it, but then the TMS sends the information to the financial system, and then the whole process is done. So it will save a lot of time. And the advantage for the carrier is that because it saves so much of time, they can get invoice much earlier. And as last, of course, the BI, very important, to have a lot of dashboards. But what is also will be nice is to have a kind of self-service capability, like that you can do your online analytics yourself instead of dependent, let's say, on the supplier to create a report for you. So these are the main functions, Martijn.
So basically, a difference between a TMS for a brand owner, a shipper, compared to a TMS for a 3PL company or a carrier is that you have a different level of what you want to process and what you want to automate.
Exactly. And so let's say for carrier TMS, that they are, let's say for them, they need to administer, let's say, the fleet, they need to administer the drivers, but those things are of no concern for the shipper TMS. And for the for the carrier TMS, they are very detail focused, while the shipper TMS should be top down, should be globally focused. So what you don't want as a shipper is to have, let's say, a function optimized, let's say, in Europe, and in India another function, and in US another function, because then at the end you need to consolidate all this data to know, let's say, exactly what your costs are worldwide, and you want it actually as fast as possible and not take a lot of time. So if you have different specialized system there, that will be at the end not scalable.
Yeah. So let's talk about platforms right now, because Elemica has a background of a trading platform, especially starting out in the chemicals industry and now moving on in other industries. Could you explain how a platform will work in this environment?
Yes. Can you back? Yeah. Sorry. Let me explain a little about Elemica Platform, so that we have, well, that you have enough context. Let's say Elemica Platform is an ecosystem of trading partners. So that is how it started. So it has what you see there, 4 layers. The first layer is the B2B integration. Okay, and what does the B2B integration? It means that we can connect any messages, any interface message flowing through, let's say, our platform between one trading partner and another. So, and that is actually one of the distinguishing factor of Elemica, because we can handle any kind of messages. And what is also important is B2B integration. A lot of people see it as interface integration, but that's not really correct, because what you want to connect is the partners, the trading partners, and not all trading partners has, let's say, a high level of automation. As I said, the smaller carriers, they don't have an IT department who can develop this. So as a platform, we are able to, let's say, we have tools like email with a link to a web form, of course, portal where they can log in, and and also mobile apps for them. Let's say for our actually customers that can provide it to them to give, let's say, the information to the platform. So so the first layer is very important. And of course, in the first layer, we also have APIs that can be exposed to all our trading partners. The second layer is actually, what do you do with this data? Okay, so and that is also another unique point of Elemica, is that all the messages that flowing through the system, it analyze it, build a kind of a digital twin within the system. So, and what I mean with that is, let's say if I have a message coming telling something about shipment, it will create an object of the shipment within the platform. But more messages that is going through the system, that's adding more information to the shipment, it will be added to this object. So at the end, in the platform, there's a digital twin of a shipping. There's a digital twin of the sales order and the purchase order, and they are linked. So that will provide the visibility for anyone who check it, either get if I alert, exactly what the latest information is of these of the shipment, of the sales order or the purchase order. And in the second layer, we provide services like order management tools, supplier portal, time slot management, and quality management tools. And also what you see there is collaboration, of course, a lot of portals for the trading partner to collaborate with each other. And we have added recently the planning capability with the iFreight TMS. Visibility and analytics, there is on top of that. So we have different, let's say, control towers for different roles. So what we mean is these are functions. So we have a function for the planner to view all the recent state of the shipment. We have function for the customer service to see the latest orders, status of the purchase order, sales order. And for what you see there below, so in summary, this is a platform for the trading partners. And since we are growing this platform for 20 years, we have a lot of shipments, more than 1 million transactions a day, and a lot of value flowing through our system. So this is Elemica Platform.
So basically, you create a digital twin, and you are stimulating or you are following individual orders moving through the system, and that's related to, in this case, transportation.
Yes, and what is important is these are the sales orders, purchase orders, and shipment are linked to each other. So that provides the customer service the capability to drill down at the detail level where exactly what the status of the customer order.
Could you tell me something about what the benefits are of this kind of TMS for shippers?
Well, this kind of TMS is because if you look at TMS alone, then it typically only provides visibility for, let's say, where is the goods, right? It starts with the transport order, and you don't have the end-to-end visibility from, let's say, the purchase order and from the sales order, because that is not within the TMS. It is broader, and that is a TMS embedded in this platform provide a much broader perspective, and that is one of the reasons why Elemica has acquired actually iFreight, because one of the function, let's say, that was actually lacking before iFreight is the whole planning. So so by acquiring that, the Elemica platform is more complete and can provide end-to-end visibility. And from the other side, let's say from the TMS perspective, from, let's say, iFreight TMS perspective, having a platform around it is very beneficial. One of it is that we have a platform that is able to connect to any trading partners, because prior, let's say before Elemica, we provide actually a tool, but then the connection is quite limited. But now with Elemica, we can connect any trading partner, and we are very flexible with the interface format, but also flexible with the companies that do not have, let's say, such high level automation. Think about the supplier. A small supplier, they don't, well, it's hard for them to provide you an interface message. They rather send you a PDF document. But then Elemica Platform has a mean to translate this PDF document into a message, because and then to flow into system, which will be added into the status of the digital twin. Okay, and it is also beneficial for the TMS to be able to connect fast logistic service providers, and also, let's say, to be data source, what we call format independent. So that means that onboarding a new carrier is much faster and much easier.
How long does it take to onboard a new carrier?
Well, that could be very fast, because, for instance, if you have it depends on where the carrier stands. Okay, if the carrier has an EDI connection and they have an international standard, then it could be a matter of days. If the carrier has their own, let's say, format, their own structure, in that case, we need to, let's say, we need to get in touch with them to understand the format, and we'll take care of everything. Our customer does not need to look at it. But then most of the time, it is not about us. It is about how fast the carrier is, because it depends on their IT capability. And that is why we also have another ways to do that. And that is, if the carrier is too small, we provide something like quick link email for them. And that means that, and that could be operational within 1 day, because we just send them an email. We need their email address. They don't have to install anything. They click on the email, they get a nice web form where they see all the details. They can enter the status information, and then they can, they're connected. And the same for the suppliers who, let's say most of our customers has, each of them can have hundreds and thousands of suppliers. Most of them don't have, let's say, a lot of IT capabilities. And this is actually the way of how we connect most of them. And it delivers value very quickly.
But you don't want the carrier to put in data manually, I guess.
No, so it's depend on what kind of carrier they are, right? Because if they are smaller carrier and they don't have a high level IT, let's say high level automation, they that is the only mean they can do it. And unfortunately, what we see in our customers, let's say they have 80% who can be automated, but still 20%. Which is very hard for them to get this data. And in that case, actually, these carriers, they love to enter it manually, because otherwise they have to invest a lot in IT development. But it can also be, if you have, let's say, contract with them, you can demand them to do that. Otherwise, well, they cannot get the business, but still you are dependent on, let's say, the speed of IT.
Okay, clear. So do you want to more tell about the end-to-end supply chain visibility and the end-to-end visibility of order to cash?
Yeah, let's say the end visibility is more what I've told earlier, right? So it is what the platform is, a single platform for the trading partners, and it provides not only, let's say, an answer to the question where's the goods, but also where's the status of my order, and so the end-to-end process, what you have put earlier in your sheet.
Okay.
With downstream.
Maybe it's good to have a look at an example of how it looks like and how do you process an order.
Okay. Yeah. So what you see here is just an example. So as I've already mentioned, in the ERP, there's a sales order. The sales order in this example is from Linz in Austria to a manufacturing factory in Schwalbach. Okay. And depending on the transportation network that is, let's say, can be configured, by the function administrator. The system knows, okay, in order to fulfill this order, there's a first part that needs the pre-carriage is actually based on rail transport, the main carriage between Rotterdam and Darien via sea, and the last onward carriage via road. Okay, so this is example how it would look like. And of course, what you're not seeing this part of the screenshot is it contains packages and product details.
So you see the whole transport routing multimodal from beginning to the end, and not only a part, the road part or the sea part. So that's the whole
exactly
end-to-end part of the transportation.
Yes, and what you see, and that is, and that could be different per TMS, right? Some TMS they only, let's say, see this order as end-to-end, and then in this case you need to have 3 orders.
Mm-hmm.
But in our case, you can have 1 order which the system can split in multiple subroutes. Of course, if you have a simple order, that does not need to be the case. It depends on how you let's say configure your own transportation network. Mm-hmm. And in this case, you can, as a planner, you can decide to plan, let's say, the rail part, the pre-carriage, to plan it and give it to, let's say, a logistics service provider for the rail. And then the onward and the main carriage and onward carriage to, for instance, a global freight forwarder who will take care of the rest. So in this case, what you'll see is an order can be split into 2 shipments, and you'll see that later in the next slide. It can be split in 2 shipments, and actually our system will calculate both the cost for the rail part and the main and the onward part, and also assign a different logistics service providers for it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the different time zones and the unit of measures. But yeah, you said here you have the example of well, an order broken down in 2 separate orders.
Yeah, well, so what you saw previously is this is about the same order. So what you see previously is the order has been broken down into 3 subroutes. So that is the pre-carriage, main carriage, onward carriage. And what you see in the next slide is the pre-carriage, the first part is the first shipment, let's say to Rotterdam, and the main carriage onward carriage is actually given to a freight forwarder with a destination of Zhongwang. And in this case, you see the triangles. So the first rail part is on time because the first the upper bar is actually the planned time, and the lower part is the actual time. And in the second shipment that is going to Zhongwang, what you see there is there's a triangle in the middle between in the upper part, because that is the port of Darien. What you see now is that in the main carriage is delayed, and then causing the whole shipment to be delayed. So this is an example of visibility, and in this case, let's say the filter is based on the order. What you see there, order 4153, and then it shows all the shipment that is linked to this order.
All right. And we have talked about earlier about real-time transport visibility. So could you tell me about a bit more about how you are dealing with this?
Yes. So real-time visibility. So besides the milestones, what we typically get from the carriers and logistics service providers, we can also get more information. So and more information could be from ELD devices, electronic logging devices, okay, and also from other sources like vessel times, for instance, like marine traffic. Okay, so what you see here is actually in the upper screen, you see, let's say, a shipment from Antwerp to well, to somewhere in Czechia, I think. Yeah. So what you see here is actually, because we can get the in this example, we get the GPS location. So what our system will do is actually, based on these locations, we will predict whether it will be in time or too late. So what you see there is the yellow one. It is that means that, hey, it is there, but given the status, it will probably come too late at the end destination. If it is green, it means, okay, now I'm still safe. I'm in time. So in this case, in the upper screen, you see that the shipment is somewhere in the middle, and it is going to be late. So, and based on this, our platform can send notifications, okay, to either the receiver of goods or to planner. And what it does, let's say a precondition for this is, of course, we need to be connected to, let's say, a carrier who can provide this data to us. But then if we can do that, we'll get a real value of that. And the second one,
yeah, sorry, there was a question about this, but I hope it was answered, but I ask it anyway. So in Elemica, how do you manage exception management? How do you report to shipper or other stakeholders the supplier on time, dispatch for forwarders on time pickup and on time delivery? So in the chain of events of the different links, I would say, how do you communicate this kind of status to all the participants involved of the whole route from beginning to end?
Yes. Let's say if you look at the whole, let's say, end-to-end process of shipping a goods, there can be many milestones. Let's say in a road, there are less milestones, but in international shipment, you have milestone, arrive at port, and then also origin port, destination port. So our platform have the capability for, let's say, for our customer to configure based on what milestones and what data need to trigger something, okay? And then we can send alerts via email to our customers, or to the shipper, or to the receiver, or to the supplier. And that is something that we typically determine, let's say, at the start of a project. And then the second thing is we have portals like this, where the user can filter only, let's say, the shipment that is threatened to be late or late, so that they can take measures. But these portals are more for people who are working daily with the system and not, let's say, ad hoc. So we provide a lot of filtering mechanism in the portals, so to only show the exceptions. And of course, alerting is quite important for all the trading partners, and those can be triggered and generated.
Okay. And you were starting to talk about the sea freight shipment, the lower part.
Yeah, and the lower part is actually an example of sea freight shipment indeed. So during planning, during planning, you know, let's say, the plan time and the planned departure time, arrival time, and the ocean carrier or your logistics provider will tell you the expected times. But then typically what happens is when the vessel is on the way, it's not clear what the status is, and it could take 40 days if you have let's say a long distance. So in this case, it will be beneficial to let's say, to connect to a service like a marine traffic, which we provide, where we can get updates every, and let's say, interval where exactly the vessel is and whether it threatened to be on time, let's say, too late or not. In that case, we can generate early alerts if something happens. So in this case, you already can see that in the second point, it will become yellow. So at that time, we already know that this vessel will be too late, and now what you see, it is in red, and the end destination, it was too late.
So in another here, you have a different kind of representation of all the milestones. So can you explain how this works?
Yeah, so if you look at the earlier two, let's say screens, they are more focused on the shipments, okay? And this one is, so they are focused on where is my goods. And this one is more, hey, what is the status of my order?
Mm-hmm.
Because the order is created, it is confirmed. In this example, you see, okay, it is confirmed, the purchase order, but with a different quantity. And then also 2 days later, they requested. And every data that is not normal can trigger an alert. So this one could be alerting you already. Hey, wait, I'm expecting a shipment that will become less. And this is actually following this order from end to end. And what you see there is a view in trace. So you can also, if this purchase order is already planned, then you can look at the shipment where it is. If there's an international shipment, is it traveling somewhere, let's say in the middle of sea or not? So then there's a difference between this screen and the screen earlier.
Yeah, I can imagine so. Let's talk about the benefits. So what are the qualitative benefits of a TMS like this?
Yeah, benefits. The qualitative benefits are many, I would say. One of the benefits, and that's the first block what you see, is about being agile and flexible. And that's important, especially important if you realize that during the COVID, when it started to break out, that a lot of people have to work at home. They don't, and so the planners cannot communicate that easily with the fellow planners in the same room because they're at home. They, let's say, the organization that use a lot of spreadsheets and a lot of manual means, it took them a while to recover, right? Because everything is on their computer, work computer. They need to find a ways to get it at home computer and so on. So, and that is one of the main benefits of a TMS. It provides a single point of truth for all your shipments. It will, so, and it will allow it for all users. I mean, let's say you have users around the world, no matter you're a user in India, in Europe or US, it doesn't matter. They have a single field. And the second one is, of course, the service delivery, because knowing where the orders is improve your customer service experience so much. And the last one, and there's also an important one, that is about exemption management, we have talked about, but also the net landing cost. So knowing exactly how much a package costs from end to end is quite important. So you have a package that's first travel via rail with, let's say, 10 other orders, and then in a container with on a vessel with 100 other orders. But what you want to know is what is the exact shipment cost of this package end to end, and not per shipment.
Yeah, so a lot of companies are struggling with total landed cost, and they need it per SKU or per SKU, and and they will also for the total landed cost to improve the supply chain. They have to have better figures, and not only a small lag of transportation, but the total landed cost and the total cost to serve for an order and a customer.
Exactly.
And if you would quantify all the savings, where are you looking at? So what is the quantifiable benefits of all this?
Yeah, this is, let's say, a question a lot of our, customer prospect ask us. The cost could be quantified, and it's just a matter of looking at your process and then estimate them. Because if you look at the quantified savings, you can reduce, let's say, rush transport. So if you have this information earlier, then you can prevent actually a lot of rush transport, because then you can go, instead of an express shipment, go to a air freight shipment, or instead of ordering a truck, you can put it via sea freight. And actually, only having this information is already make the logistics department aware. So if you have run the system for a year, then you can see, hey, why is there so much, so high percentage of rush transport? And this actually happens with one of our customers. After implementation of the system, they realize that they have a lot of rush transport, and using this data, they can reduce it, because they go to the business units and ask them to provide data earlier. It is all about optimization for end-to-end chain. Consolidation is, of course, one thing. Put multiple orders, one shipment. Having the ability to check all the invoices. And what is very important is the accessory cost. So during execution, there could be, let's say, exceptions happening, and the carrier will add an extra cost. They will report an extra cost. If you don't have the visibility, then what happens is, okay, they add an extra cost, and at the end of during the billing process, the financial user says, okay, the extra cost is there. Do I have time to check this? Yes or no? So and that will lead to extra accessory cost. But if you have the means that if these extra costs occur, that the planner see it and they have to approve it, then when the billing started, the planner already have managed all these approvals or rejections, and all these communication already have taken place. And one of our customers has done this, and actually the number of, let's say, the types of accessory costs with the cost deviations, they got reduced from 110 till 50, and they see there's a change in the behavior of the carrier, because they see that they are monitored, and so they start reporting less. Okay, and then the labor saving, and that is quite trivial, because everything is automated. You don't need email communication, you don't need phone calls. The system will give you a decision support, give you a list of what is the best rate, so you can choose it easily. The planning is automated, cost audit is automated. Okay.
So, and how do you calculate all these savings?
Yeah, well, we have actually what you see here is we have well, in this case, a simple tool, because what we want to provide our prospect and customer is a simple tool, one pager based on savings, with all the estimation in terms of labor savings, but also consolidation savings and the savings what I mentioned earlier. And then another one pager with, let's say, the calculation of ROI. And with the numbers that you see is actually an average of, let's say, calculation that we've done in the past. So in average, depend on your organization, because you can have a specific flow that even add more savings, but 3 to 8% of freight cost savings. So those are savings really reducing the money you spend on freight, and then 15 euro to 20 euro of labor cost. And those are savings, let's say, calculated by the number of hours you save times, let's say, your internal cost per employee. And in most of the cases, you will see that there's a roughly 1 year, or if let's say 7 to 1 year, 7 months to 1 year of ROI cash positive.
When you look at implementation of supply chain software, WMS, TMS, APS, you know, it's sometimes quite hard. And I can imagine, you know, if you have modules, it will depend how many modules you're going to implement. But can you say something? What are the success factors of a TMS implementation like yours?
Yeah, so let's say success factors. This is actually what you see is actually a survey that has been done. Okay, about what let's say shippers think the most important success factors, and what you see here is actually let's go to the top 3. Understanding the integration requirements. So for most shippers, is let's say they see the issue of the IT because the IT department are typically fully booked, and they need to integrate because if you want to implement TMS, there's a lot of integration involved, and so that is why this is a concern for them. But actually for us, Elemica, this is quite easy because we have a platform that manages this quite well. We can interface any format, so we can take the let's say some of the functionality over from the ERP integration part, because we can enrich the data, we can add master data to it, we can solve some data quality issue, although the ideal solution is solve it at source. The second one is the cross-functional team, right? Included to IT. Well, as I mentioned, IT is always most of the time a bottleneck. Another one that we should not underestimate is, let's say, the business unit cooperation, because if you have typically let's say a company acquire a TMS for the logistics department, but to have a good optimized end-to-end process, you need to involve, let's say, the business unit, because they're responsible to provide the input. So they actually are responsible to provide the quality of the data that the TMS get. So that is very important to align with them.
So master data is always important, but do you always need 100% accurate data, or are there workarounds, or how do you manage this issue?
Well, in our case, it is not really necessary as long as the data can be derived, because in our case, we can put some of the data, we can deal with some of the data in, let's say, the platform, let's say in the network between the ERP and iFreight TMS. That is, for instance, if we lack a certain code, then we can put in a master data with the transformation of this code. So we are quite flexible in this term, and that is also one of the reasons why I'm personally very happy that we have a complete set, both network and iFreight TMS.
So we have 2 slides actually, but there are some questions coming in. We'll get to that, But first, I would like, and then we get to the questions. How to select a TMS? So what do you think is important to select TMS in the right way?
Well, it's dependent on, let's say, what you need, right? Do you need a TMS for your full enterprise global? Do you need a configurable workflow? And how flexible is your IT organization? That's the first, what you see in the upper left corner. And then, or are your requirement pure regional? But in that case, let's say, do you want to solve an issue at a regional level? Well, the downside of that is actually that you should be aware of island automation. We see some of the prospects coming to us now that they do have a TMS in certain regions, but then they still lack the global visibility because they have different TMSs at the regional level that has been installed to solve a certain small problem. Okay, and then the transportation network is important. Do you want a TMS that is able to scale with your entire organization, or do you focus, let's say, on the road transport in a certain country? And that is the same question you need to ask. Is my vision short-term or long-term? Yeah. Or the integration, of course, very important, because a TMS only as tool is not enough. There are TMSs, you do not buy a tool. Actually, what you want to buy is a TMS with a network or easy to connect new logistics service providers. Visibility, very key. Do you want to know only where's the goods, or also want to know the end-to-end visibility of an order? And do you have the means, let's say, how important is the data? And because not all, as I say, not all trading partners has the same level of automation. So if you want 100%, then you need to have, let's say, a supplier that can provide also tools for your trading partners to provide you the data.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be hard. And BI analytics strategy is important.
Yeah. Well, some interesting questions are popping in. You know, we are almost there, but I want to ask some questions right now. One question from the audience: does the system reflect the ecological footprint?
Let's say our system. We have this question for different customers. We have all the data to calculate the ecological footprint. But what we have seen now is from multiple companies that they have their own, let's say, ways of calculating this, because typically they have different conversion factors that are well, typically for their organization. So well, what we do is we get the data out of our system, dependent on, let's say, the conversion factors, and these are typically as a master data. We can create reports to report on what the ecological, let's say, what the emission is on CO2 or PO, let's say SOx and so on.
Okay.
So this is what we typically do.
Another question: whose algorithms are used to calculate the estimated delivery in the various stages, taking into account weather, traffic, and boat delays?
Okay. Let's say this is more about predictive. Let's say the ETA, I guess. So. Yeah. Let's say if we use, let's say, marine traffic for the ocean, we depend on, let's say, the data that's coming from marine traffic. And if you look at, let's say, the road shipment, then we have an algorithm where we predict, let's say, when it will arrive and what is when it will be delayed.
So you probably have calculations per lag, and not so much on the whole.
What kind of shipment it is, indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, there are some more questions, but I'll end up, with some considerations you had, or otherwise we could go to the Q&A right away. I think another question: can the Elemica system do the digital transport of PDF documents and deliver it to the end customer? So proof of delivery and that kind of stuff. Is this also able to do that via your platform or system?
Yes. So actually, our system can get. I'm not sure exactly what correct. So our system can get PDF information in. Let's say PDFs in, and we can digitize it. We can also get
to the end customer, as a proof of delivery. So not in the system, but out of the system.
Yeah. So let's say if we can get a PDF document in and send it through, we can also capture, for instance, the signature in a mobile app. But if that is a use, or if the carrier use a mobile app and have a signature, then we can also get those information in our platform. So there are different ways that we can handle this kind of PODs.
Okay, all right. Another question might be technical. Can the system track not the transport service, but the order / the container with GPS or RFID system?
Sorry, you have to repeat that.
Can the system track not the transport service, but the order and the container with GPS or RFID system?
Okay. So it's more like tracking the package on it.
Yes.
Yeah. And we are dependent for the tracking information on what is coming from the let's say the logistics service provider. Okay. If the logistics service provider give us information about where the package is, then we can capture it and provide this visibility.
Okay.
So actually, in the past, we also done a pilot with, let's say, a project for smart pallet, and we can track any information about these parcels, but we are dependent on, let's say, a logistics service provider to provide this information to us.
Yes, but I can also imagine that as a brand owner, for example, in the pharmaceutical area, you are demanding that you want this. So then you are demanding from a carrier that this should be provided one way or another, smart packaging and that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
And as a result, the carriers should provide this to this brand owner, this manufacturing company, and then you will are able to provide this kind of data.
Yes, so it's dependent very much on the use cases indeed of our customers.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's quite important. So.
Okay, thanks a lot. We actually all are on the hour, and I know there might be some more questions. So I would say if there are some more urgent questions, you could type away and ask them right now. If not, we can handle these questions afterwards, and we'll pick it up, and either Elemica or Supply Chain Media will be able to answer it. So my suggestion would be, to wrap it up, because maybe people have some other appointments later on after this hour. So there is some further reading. We have case studies by Elemica where they have explained what they have been done within certain well-known companies, and there are also white papers how they have done it on one side. On the other side, we have done we created an end-to-end supply chain visibility assessment, self-assessment. You can do it yourself, quite easy. Download it in a kind of Excel spreadsheet, and you will see where the white spots are in your end-to-end supply chain visibility, either inbound, internal, or outbound, operational, tactical, or strategic level. Jung, I want to thank you for your expertise. Is there a final remark, a final message you want to give to the audience before we wrap up?
No, I thank you very much for having me here. So I would say, if you're interested, then just contact me. Or contact us. We are really willing to provide more information.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jung, and the audience. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all your questions. And I hope to meet you in a webinar or otherwise in the near future. Thanks again, and bye-bye. Thank you, Jung.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.